Because when it comes to news stories, China is a gift that keeps giving, I have to say this. Economy, domestic instability, these are just two of the challenges. China is not doing well on the foreign policy front either. It is facing an optics problem. Countries are thinking twice before striking deals with Beijing. So China has come up with a new plan. Tap countries which lack resources, promise them security and development, and lure them into an unequal partnership. This is happening in the Pacific. China is trying to pull Pacific Island states into its sphere of influence, but it faces a challenge here as well. And that challenge is called Australia. Australia is pushing back hard. Our next report tells you how the Pacific has become a battleground for Australia and China.
This is the Pacific Ocean, the new battleground for Australia and China, a theater of conflict where their interests collide. Both countries are fishing for geopolitical influence here. Beijing is pushing for a deal with Pacific Island states. Canberra is trying to retain its authority. The big flashpoint came on Thursday. Both countries dispatched their foreign ministers to the region. Wang Yi kicked off an 8-country tour in the Solomon Islands. His Australian counterpart Penny Wong landed in Fiji. Present, just a stone's throw away from each other, both individuals are trying to argue why their nation should remain the region's closest partner. China is talking about mutual trust.
The mutual trust between our two countries is getting higher and higher, with more and more common interests and even an ever wider cooperation.
Australia is talking about priorities.
We want to work with you on your priorities. We want to work together as part of the Pacific family.
So which side is winning? So far, it's hard to tell. The Pacific Islands are split. They want more resources, more investments, more development projects. Australia has failed them on this count. China is promising to fill the gap. It is offering economic and security deals, vowing to uphold the interests of these states.
I've brought with me in this visit firm support for the Solomon Islands, sincerity for cooperation, and the friendship that the Chinese people bear for the people of the Solomon Islands.
Australia is lagging behind, but it's in no mood to give up. The Australian Foreign Minister is trying to persuade Fiji why sticking with Australia as their top partner is worth the trouble. The question is, what does Australia have to offer? Assurances that it won't violate the sovereignty of Pacific Island states.
Look, it's for Pacific nations to make their own decisions about, who they want to partner with and in which areas, and we respect that. We think that it's important that the security of the region be determined by the region, and historically that has been the case, and we think that's a good thing.
So what happens next? The war of words will continue, especially from China's side. Its foreign minister is on a 10-day trip. He will visit 8 countries in these 10 days. After Fiji, he will go on to Solomon Islands, Kiribati, Samoa, Fiji, Tonga, Vanuatu, Papua New Guinea, and East Timor. This is unprecedented by China's standards. Rarely do its envoys go on such marathon tours. It shows how seriously Beijing is taking its Pacific ambitions. It has no other choice. The Quad, the AUKUS, the NATO, the ASEAN, the G7, they've all, in a way, turned against Beijing. So what does China do? It tries to woo countries that lack resources, promises to build airports and stadiums for them, keep its global influence at par with the West's monopoly. As for Australia, it is working extra hard to undo the perception that it is part of a Western clique. Undo its image of being an elitist, exclusionary force. Will its efforts work? Only time will tell.
WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.